Greetings. I'm doing some reminiscing today. I'm going back to about, I think the year was 2001, somewhere around the turn of the century. I feel funny saying that because turn of the century used to mean an entirely different thing to me. But anyway, and the release of the very first Harry Potter movie. I think a lot of my witchy friends are also Harry Potter friends. I was a very big, as you can see, I have in front of me, all seven of the original series, J.K. Rowling series, Harry Potter, the Harry Potter collection, all well worn, all well read. My husband and I read these books aloud to each other over this, what was this, 7 years. We also did something really fun that I want to share with you today. We had some mutual friends who were fans of the Harry Potter series of books. And they were, I think the collection they released, I think the original books were older. And they were re-released. I think they were re-released in the 90s, late 90s. I believe, or maybe they were written then. When were they first written? I have to look that up. I should know that. I did know that. I did not know anything about the books, until my friends started to write about it on probably, at the time, 1998. Okay. I was right. I was correct. 1998 was when they were. 1997, the first book, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, was released in 1997, written in 1997, and between 1997 and 2001, when the first movie came out, there was a lot of talk about the books, and we became interested in the books. And the more friends of ours, were interested, I was very fascinated about the books. And what happened was, when they had the first release party, we bought the books and we read along, too. My husband and I started reading the series. When they had the first release party of the first movie, two of my friends who happened to live together in this lovely home decided to hold a Harry Potter theme party. And they issued invitations. Probably 24 people, I think there were about 24 people, to go to this party. And we were to read before going, if we had not already done so, the very first book, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, which was the first book. And be prepared. We needed to have a robe. There was a few things we were given in a letter, just like Harry was given his letter, some things that he had to take with him when he went to school for the first time, when he went to Hogwarts for the first time. And we went and we boarded a train. We didn't board a train, but there was a platform there that we went through, a magical place. We had to wait in the cul-de-sac till we were greeted and taken through. And we were sorted. There was a sorting hat, and we were sorted into our houses, just like Harry Potter and his friends were. And we had so many. There were so many decorations. The house was completely done over. Really, I thought I was impressed. But we were sorted. My husband and I, coincidentally, both were sorted into Hufflepuff. Our youngest daughter was also at the party, and she was sorted into Slytherin, which we found very funny, but pretty accurate. The more we went on, the more accurate it became. But anyway, we went, and over the course of the next 7 years, we, every year with another book, when another book came out, the parties got even more fantastic. The decorations, I could talk an hour about how the houses were decorated, the attention to detail of these two friends of mine. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen, ever experienced in my life. And I'll just never forget. I will just never forget this experience. I'm forever grateful. But it was, I was very fortunate. Well, the reason I'm sitting here, I will move this out of the way because I have to tell you so I can take it off. The reason, I think I mentioned this to you before in another video. One of the years, we took turns every year doing certain things, preparing for those of us who were regulars, about at least maybe a dozen or so, at least, people attended every year. We came back every year. Some left, some new came along the years, but basically there was a core of at least a dozen people or so who were just the go-to crew. We helped in decorating the house, and depending on the book and what the theme of the book was or the movie coming up, we decorated the location depending on where most of it was located. We altered the decor in that way, and we took turns doing certain roles. One year I was the herbology professor, and if you've seen the movie, you might find some humor that I was given the job as the herbology professor, because I kind of did too. But as a thank you for doing that, because it was really more fun to be a student than it was to be a professor. You got to do more things. But, it was fun in a different way for the year. But as a thank you for me doing that, the sacrifice, these two women knitted me the most fantastic scarf. Look at this beautiful thing. In my colors, Hufflepuff. And I was so excited, and I told you, I think I might have told this story before on here, that this was a year that we were going back to visit my parents for Christmas, taking the girls back for a Christmas holiday, and back to Pennsylvania. And I was so excited because I thought, oh, maybe it'll snow. And I got really excited, so I wore this scarf on the plane. We don't get to wear this very often here in California. So I wore my scarf on the plane, so I would have it in case we got off the plane. It was all snowy and cold. That'd be so wonderful. And I got on the plane to fly to Pittsburgh, and the whole plane, I'm walking down the aisle on the plane, and all people are going, yay, Steelers, go Steelers, go Steelers. So I'm like, Steelers? What are you talking about? I got off the plane at the airport in Pittsburgh with my scarf. Yay, Steelers! Everybody in the airport was dressed in this color for the Steelers. The malls, everybody in the malls, all the stuff being sold. Pretty much this year. Steelers, go Steelers. I spent my Christmas vacation saying, not Steelers, this is Hufflepuff. Hufflepuff people, not Steelers. To no avail. In Pittsburgh, this means Steelers. But here, and in my heart and always, it means Hufflepuff. So anyway, speaking of how fantastic I'll put it there. Thinking how fantastic these parties were. Another part of the party, of course, a big part of any celebration, just like a big part of our Halloween celebration or our Samhain celebration, a big part of that celebration is food. And we were very fortunate that the women who ran the party paid so much detail to the food that we ate, because every year, depending on of course what we were doing, we had the food that was appropriate for the book. Like the first year, there was a big emphasis on the sweets that they had gotten on the train. So there was a big emphasis on chocolate frogs and some of the other things that they were offered on the let's see, I wrote it down. Oh yeah, Birdie's Bots, every flavor beans. Birdie Bots is every flavor beans. The charmed chocolates, the chocolate cauldron, chocolate frogs were a big thing. Acid pops. There were a lot of things that were that they picked up on the train. And then of course, one year they had a big the hall which would have been the dining hall, the big fantastic hall, big long tables. They had a patio outside of the back of their home there that was lovely. It was covered and had a big fireplace in it, and it was lovely. But in long tables, they decorated with that long tables, and they had the house banners all around, which actually, depending on how the course of the day would go, how the course of the school day would go with all the competitions we had and all the points that each house could earn or have taken from them, when the colors changed, would just show the winner. The colors actually changed in the hall. It was fantastic. Such a fun day, such a fun time. But anyway, one year it was all done for Christmas, like it was the Christmas celebration, and we would have the roast, oops. I'm trying to remember what we had, just some of the foods that we had. But anyway, the roast, the spotted dick, the trifle, the treacle puddings, all the kind of food, that you would probably see, mushy peas perhaps. So that was so much fun. And I got to help because I love to cook. My husband and I got to cook and help. And one of the things we got to do one year that was really terrifically fun, and I can't believe I'm showing you this, but I am, is we made and bottled butterbeer. And we made and bottled butterbeer, and this one says, the label says, and these labels were provided to us by the people that were running the party. This was in the refrigerator, so it's still wet. And it's kind of dripping on my table. But it says, the Hogshead Tavern Butterbeer, 12 fluid ounces. Beautiful label. I don't think it will show up. I'll try to get a picture of it and show it up later, because it's very faded. Because what did I say? I'm not sure when this was, when we did this, what year we did this, but I think the last book was, the last movie, what was that, 2008 or 9, or, this is what, 2020. And there's a little bit of a funny story that goes with this, because this was really delicious. I'm going to try to open it later to see what's in it. It might explode, so I have to be real careful. But we made both alcoholic and non-alcoholic versions of the butterbeer. And they both said butterbeer, but one we could tell by the bottle which was which. And people drank both of them, but I guess you have to realize that I preferred the alcoholic version, as did many of my friends. But we have 2 refrigerators here in our house, and the extra that we did not use, we kept in the house here in the refrigerator. And my grandson, who at the time would have been about 10, 9 or 10, 8, 9, 10 in there somewhere, no older than 10, 8 or 9. I had the non-alcoholic version in there, and I thought I had the alcoholic version set off to another place. And I said, it's in there whenever you want to get something to drink. They know, people that know to come to their house, whatever's in that refrigerator, they just kind of can have anytime they want. They're not taking from the family or anything. That's just extras. Or it's things that people have brought that they want to keep in the refrigerator for when they come back. Some of their favorite drinks, etc., are kept out there. It turned out that we didn't realize it, but my grandson, he really was loving this butterbeer, and we realized later he had finished the alcoholic butterbeer, and he had left some of the non-alcoholic behind. Bad grandma. Well, it wasn't that terribly alcoholic, but still, what can I say? It's kind of grandmother I guess I am. I don't know. But he's fine. He's fine now. He's doing really well. He turned out really well. But anyway, I thought these were gone. My husband found one in the back of the refrigerator. He goes, oh no, there's a couple in there. I mean, it was in the door of the refrigerator. We didn't even realize it. So we're going to open it later and see what it tastes like. But this reminded me of all the fun things we did make. We did make chocolate frogs, and we did make a lot of course, some of the major foods. But one of the things that we made, which we loved and was one of the most popular things we made, were pumpkin pasties. And people just love them. And I make pasties all the time of some kind, or hand pies, or whatever you want to call them, both sweet and savory. We eat a lot of them in the SCA. We eat a lot of like pork pies or chicken pies, fish pies. You know, all very period. We have a lot of period recipes for different kind of pies and hand pies and dumplings. You know, called different things, but that's basically what they are. And so I made them for that, and so of course we made them for the party. And I'm just going to show you how real simple way to do that today. Okay, I'm going to just show you the quickest way to do it. Now, this is not maybe necessarily the way that I would do it all the time, but I would tell you what I do differently, and you can do for yourself. But I just thought it would be fun to go down that road, relive Harry Potter a little bit, because, you know, at Harry Potter, I think this was one of the phenomenons that occurred to make everybody so excited about being witches. Everybody wanted to be a witch. Who didn't want to be a witch and go to Hogwarts and have the adventures that Harry and his friends had? Everybody did. And as an adult, I find that adults enjoy the movies maybe even more than the kids do. And as a witch, I want to point out that most of the people at this party were not witches. They were absolutely not witches. They were just people that just loved role-playing and loved adventure and loved the idea of it. But I have to say, those of you who are witches, if you have not read the Harry Potter series, I recommend it highly to you, because J.K. Rowling really knows her shit. A lot of the stuff she really knows. And I want to say, this is another fun thing that I found out before I get too excited. I was just brought these books off the shelf, and they'd been on the shelf a while. I'm just looking. And here in the last book, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, I open up the book, and in the book are some souvenirs from the party, because we had the book with us. I'm sure we had the book with us at the time for some reason. And here I got a howler, and it says Becca Hufflepuff, and inside it says, roses are red, violets are blue. Someone in Slytherin is out to get you. So I had to find that person before they found me. But we got these kind of things upon arrival every year. This is a student schedule for Rebecca Duval Hufflepuff, year 7. The student schedule: 10 o'clock, Hogwarts Express leaves platform 9 3/4. 10:10, sorting ceremony for any new students. 10:30, the trivia with schools, a trivia game and a school song. Trivia game was for points. The school song, of course, we have the words, but the school song, there was no melody, so everybody sings the words to whatever melody you want to make up, and we all sing it together, and that's so much fun. 11 o'clock, we had the feasts and cleanup, etc. Then here I have classes. I have ancient runes from 12:12 to 12:50, defense against the dark arts from 1 to 1:50, charms class from 2 to 2:50, then a break, then Quidditch finals, and yes, we did play Quidditch. We even had team shirts, and we played in a park nearby and got all kinds of attention you can't even imagine. We assembled in the Great Hall to get the House Cup awarded, and then we had cleanup by 5:30, and it was so much fun. And then this is what I want to say about it. J.K. Rowling really knows a lot of her stuff. I really found out when I was the herbology professor, her knowledge of a lot of the herbs was really fantastic, actually. And here's the spell book, which we were to wear. Here's a hole so we could wear it with us on our belts at all times. And here is, of course, we had wands. And there are instructions. You may only cast spells that are written in your spell book. This is how you play the games. Past spell knowledge is considered void. You may only write spells in your spell book that you acquired this year, because we were there from year to year. So we got a new spell book every year. Had to start again. You must have a wand in your hands in order to cast a spell. When you cast a spell, you must speak the incantation loudly enough that the target of your spell is able to hear you. Practice makes perfect. Students are encouraged to practice their spells at every opportunity. And casting of any of the unforgivable curses is strictly forbidden. It tells you, here's some spells that I've given in my book. I have Accio, which causes an object to fly to me. I have Aloe Mora, which causes a locked door to open. I have Expelliarmus, which causes a weapon to fly out of my opponent's hands. And here's some other, those are given to me. Here's a couple more. I have Locomotor Mortis, Lumos, and Nox, which will turn the light off from a Lumos spell. And then I have Petrificus Totalis, Protego, and Ridiculous. And then I have, there's space in the back where I wrote in spells that I learned in my spells class, and we actually use these against each other in games and all kinds of things. It was the most fantastic experience I will ever, well, I say that. I have had a lot of fantastic experiences, but I was really glad that I stuck those in that book. And my husband and I got these books out, and we thought, you know, it'd be fun to read these again. We read them together to each other. We took turns reading aloud, and oh, that was a fun thing to do. It would be fun to do with your kids, or fun to do with your friends, or so this is we can maybe make some plans to do another Harry Potter party when, maybe a school reunion when we're done with this quarantine. Wouldn't that be lovely? Wouldn't that be lovely? That'd be wonderful. Okay, I'm going to turn my camera because I'm just going to show you a really quick, yummy version of pumpkin pasties that are delicious to eat or delicious to freeze to eat later. Okay, stay tuned. I mentioned that this is a quick, very quick, simple recipe that you can make for your own. If you want to do a Harry Potter party, of course you could do it. But or just for a Halloween treat for your family, or a Samhain treat, or this would be a good addition to a perhaps a feast of the dead or a dumb supper. But also, I don't know about you, but when my husband and I celebrate rituals for any Sabbats or any Espits, any ritual that we celebrate normally has a cakes and ale, time for cakes and ale, whatever it's called by different things within the ritual, a time for sharing a drink from the chalice, and a little bit of treat, like a little cake of some kind, a little cookie kind of thing, or it could be savory, it could be sweet. It's most often sweet, but it doesn't have to be. And then some of that, of course, is shared, given back, shared at the end of the ritual, taken and thrown out into the earth, into the ground, as an offering. But so these little, especially if you make them small, it's a very good thing to show that. But it also is very fun for just, a little treat for your kids. I don't know what you're going to be able to do this year because of the, our quarantine situation. Some people are not under quarantine and they're free to do trick-or-treating or whatever, but others are not. So it's a good way to have a little celebration within your home for you and your family, or just for you. They're just fun. But like I said before, they can be frozen and they can be brought out for any treat, for any kind of a treat. So normally, it's going to be like a little pie. Think of a little empanada or a little some kind of a little dumpling kind of a thing, but made out of pie crust. And because it's made out of pie crust, a lot of people make their own crust, and I normally make my own crust, and I make it savory, but some people add a little sugar in their crust, just like a lot of people add a little bit of sugar in their crust when they're making their own pastry crust for pie. I do not. I just I don't put any sugar in my crust normally. I make a nice savory crust, and then my sweetness comes from my filling, if I'm going to have any sweetness at all. But since we're not going to worry about that today, because we're going to use, for a basis of ours, is we're going to use refrigerated pie crust. Okay, so anybody can make it. Anybody can make it quickly and easily. But it also shows you on the package I'm just looking right now, if you want to make this sweet, you just add a little bit of sugar to the top of whatever you're doing. And they're showing you that on the box. If you want to sweeten it up a little bit, you just add a little bit of sugar to the top of whatever you're doing. And they're showing you that on the box. If you want to sweeten it up a little bit, you just add a little bit of sugar to the top of whatever you're doing. And they're showing you that on the box. If you want to sweeten it up a little bit, Um, just put a little bit of sugar on the top of your pie. Very simple. Okay, well right now we're going to do the filling. Now, when I make my filling at home, normally, I always use pumpkin. This is just plain canned pumpkin. It is not it's not pumpkin pie filling, it's just the pumpkin. I imagine you could use the pumpkin pie filling. Pumpkin pie filling is just already spiced up, already seasoned, I think. So there's no reason you can't use that. But I just use the plain because I like to season it myself. People have different preferences for the seasoning. When you make a pie, you normally use the pumpkin and sugar, and of course, and your spices. But then, of course, you always normally add eggs to it, and also, in the case of pumpkin pie, you usually add evaporated milk to it. So you're making a custard. And when I make pasties, I very often will do that. I will make that filling, but instead of pouring it into a crust, I would just pour it into some kind of a casserole dish, and I will bake the filling separate of the pie crust. I won't use the pie crust, and then I will spoon out that filling and use that to fill my pasties. That's a little bit work. That's good. It makes a really nice pasty. In that case, it makes a pumpkin pasty that really does absolutely taste like pumpkin pie, no question about it. But these are still very good without going to all that trouble. So that's what we're going to do today. We're not going to any trouble. We're doing this for fun. So I'm going to just take, and what I need is here, I've opened another can, and here's my filling, and I'm just going to add 1/2 cup of that filling. Now, you can use your own. I grow pumpkins, and also when I get pumpkins, when I buy pumpkins even, I will often cook those down. I will either give them to my chickens for a treat, or I will cook them down and freeze them, because I cook with pumpkin all the time. But also, pumpkin is really good to give to your dog if your dog has a little bit of pumpkin, like a tablespoon or something, not much, a little bit, with your dog's food. If your dog's stools are either too loose or too firm, if a dog is constipated or a dog has diarrhea, for some reason it works both ways. It evens out your dog's elimination. Makes it nice and regular. So we always keep this. We have big dogs. They can have problems. It can make big problems. Big dog, big problems. So we always keep some in our freezer. So when I have the pumpkin coming from a pumpkin, when you get it out of the freezer, some might be a little watery. In that case, you can still use it, but you might want to put it in the a strainer to drain out the excess water before you use it in the recipe. But other than that, it's just plain. It's just your pumpkins. That's it. And the only thing going to add to this, the only thing we're adding is we're going to add sugar. Gotta have sugar. And I'm just going to use, for 1/2 cup of pumpkin, I'm going to use approximately a tablespoon of sugar. Probably a little rounded tablespoon of sugar. Maybe just a little bit more, perhaps. Because again, I'm not using any sugar in my crust. And I want these nice and sweet. And then, what else? The only other thing that's going to go in here is I'm going to use 3 spices. I'm going to use cinnamon, ginger, and a little bit of clove. Now, some people use nutmeg, some people use cardamom, some people use allspice. Whatever you use for only 1/2 cup of pumpkin, I would not use more than a 1/4 teaspoon or less of each spice. Actually, I'm going to use for cinnamon, I'm going to use about a 1/4 teaspoon, maybe a little generous 1/4 teaspoon. I have a 1/2 spoon measure. So I'm just going to go a little bit scant. I'm going to go about 3/4 of a half. 3/4 of 1/2. So, I don't know, about 1.5 quarters, I don't know, of cinnamon in mine, because I want mine to be basically cinnamon. And then I'm going to use just a little bit of ginger, like I'm going to say maybe just a pinch actually of ginger. So I'm just going to put, what do I have there? I might have 1/8 of a teaspoon of ginger. I don't want much, just a little bit. And clove, even less. Clove is strong. I like the taste of clove, but I can't use much. So I'm just using just a little bit of, like a pinch. I can't put my fingers in here to pinch, so. And that is basically it. That is basically it. Did you see how fast that was? And I'm just going to stir this up. I don't have to add anything to it. It's going to stay, but we do want to make sure that it's all incorporated. Okay. Now you can go ahead and make the whole can if you want to make a lot of these and freeze them. I'm just going to make a few for right now, so I don't want a lot. And my freezers are pretty full. We're at the point we're trying to eat out of the freezer to make room for all the debaking I'm going to put in there. So that's it. I just stirred it up, and now I'm just going to break just for a second because I want to move this stuff out of the way and show you how we're going to make the crust and how we're going to fill these. But that's it for the filling. That was faster than lightning, and that's a clue. That's a clue. Stay tuned. Okay. I normally said that I would be making my dough. You can use any kind of a pie crust that you like, but this, I find these packages are fantastic. I'm going to just use one. The other one is still in its own little bag, so I can close this back up and put this back in the. I can put this in the freezer, or I can store this in the refrigerator. What I'm actually going to do is probably use the other crust tomorrow and roll it out and make some kind of a quiche. Some kind of a quiche for lunch, but this could not be simpler. I'm just going to take this out of the wrapper, and it's, pie crust is always best if you keep it cold, even if you make it or if you buy it. It's best if you keep it cold before you use it. I'm just going to take a little bit of flour. I've got a towel here down on my table. You don't have to. I just like to do it that way. And just putting a little bit of flour out so we don't stick. I don't think it's going to stick, but I just like to. I like a floured board to make sure. And I should have an apron on because I'm going to have this all over me. Okay. And I have a rolling pin here. This is already pre-rolled, so you don't really have to have one, except you see it's already pre-rolled. But I find this a little bit thick the way it comes out of the package, so I always, even if I'm going to use it for a pie, I just put it down with a little flour and I just give it a little bit of a roll, just to roll it out a little thinner, just a little. And if you don't have a rolling pin, you can use a jar, empty jar. I guess it could be a full jar. But if it's a full jar, you need the lid on. You don't want to have pickle juice all over your. Because I just want this a little thinner. It works for me if it's a little thinner. And again, we're not going for any kind of a shape because we're not making it into a pie. Using that was really easy to do. I just rolled it. Okay, now I have a little gadget here that I'm going to use. I want to show this to you. It is not necessary that you use this. Okay, not necessary at all. As a matter of fact, you probably don't even have this. But this is a little gadget because I make these all the time, that I have these little pastry molds I have them in this size and I have the big ones. And it's for making exactly what we're doing. It's not necessary that you have it, but I want to show you. I'm going to give you a link down below in case you want to get these. I have actually found a link that there's 3 sizes because these come in so handy for making any kind of pasties like this, or making empanadas, or making calzones, or whatever you want to make. I mean, dumplings. They cut all kinds of things. And they're really cool because, first of all, you use it open, and I'll show you. And then I'll show you what you can use instead. And I'm just going to put this, can you see? Press down, and it makes a circle. It makes a circle of dough. A perfect circle of dough that I'm going to then put back on the form. And I'm going to fill. And have my filling. Just with maybe, like a teaspoon or something to filling. Just a little bit of filling. Maybe a little more. Yeah, about a teaspoon, I would say. And then I'm going to, wait, right back. So I have about a teaspoon or so of dough, depending on the size of your circle, on the form. And then I just take a little bit of water, dip my finger in the water, and I just go around and wet the outside, just to make the dough a little bit wet. Because then I'm going to fold it over on itself and push it together. Push it together. And out comes a beautiful little dumpling. And I just check the seal. And this, because this is my style, you don't have to do that, but I always curl that in a little bit. I like the look of that, and it gives me a little thicker crust on the outside. Okay? And then what I'm going to do, I don't think you can see, is you have to make some kind of a slit in the top to let the steam escape, or it will explode. So I'm going to make 3 slits. 1, 2, 3, which are going to come out like a lightning bolt, like the scar on Harry's forehead. And I'm just putting that down. I have a mat, this is silk pad, on top of my baking sheet. So you can use that, or parchment paper, or wax paper, or whatever you want to use to keep it. And that's it. Okay? Now, if you don't have one of these cute little things, you can use just simply a glass. I would go for a glass, you know, if you want to cut with glass. Same thing, you just push the glass down. But be careful if you're going to use a glass. You want a glass that is going to be at least 3 inches in diameter. If it's smaller than that, you're not going to be happy, because it's going to just be way, way too small. Okay, so in that case, I put a little bit of filling on, just like I did. Just like I did on the other one, not too much. If you put too much on, it's going to leak. You want to have a good place around it. And again, I take my water, and I can run my finger around there with a little wet water. Some people use an egg wash for that, but sometimes I think that makes the edges a little heavy. And then I just take and fold it over, and I'm going to pinch it together with my finger, between my fingers, making sure I pinch that edge. And then I'm going to take a fork. Let me see if I put it out here if you can see it. Where do you see it? I can't see my camera very well, so if I put it here, maybe you can see it. Then I'm going to just take my fork and push down and make sure that it has a good seal on top of there. Okay? Like that. And then make my slits. Okay? One in that direction, one in that direction, and one in that direction. And that'll make a nice lightning bolt when it bakes, and let the steam out. Okay, so I'm just going to go around here, and I'm going to cut as many circles as I can get, either with your glass or with your little mold that you have. And get them as close together as you can. And then I didn't leave my trim. We're going to pick up the doing on the towel doesn't give me a very cut edge. There you go. And then it's very simple. You can re-roll your scraps. Put your scraps together. Okay, let me do my edges. See the mold, if I use this mold, it goes together pretty fast. Okay. And I just like to, again, I like to curl that up. You don't have to do that. As long as you know you have a good seal, you're good. That's just sort of my trademark when I make something like this. And then I put the lightning bolt. And if you don't want the lightning bolt, you can just put some holes. You can take a nut pick. I often make a nut pick. And or a skewer or something. And just make about 3 little holes on the top. Or 1, you know. So I didn't get that very good. I'm just going to continue to make these until I use up all my dough or filling, whatever comes first. And make sure I cut the slits in them. And then we're going to give them a little bit of a wash. You don't have to. That's optional. But if you want them to be nice and brown, a little bit of nice glossy brown on the top, it makes them pretty. So I'll show you how I do that in just a second. I just wanted to show you what I mean when I say re-roll your scraps. I just picked up all that extra dough that didn't have any, I have a lot of dough left. So I'm just going to take it and make a ball out of it. Squeeze it together as best I can. And then I'm going to just roll it out with my rolling pin or a jar, whatever you're using. Just try to get it small. Try to get it about the same thickness as it was originally. I just keep turning it. You really can't do this wrong. Some people say if you work your dough too much, it might get tough. But these refrigerator doughs, some of them are so tender. The crust is so tender. It doesn't hurt if you're going to have for a hand pie, something that you're eating on your hand. It never hurts to make it too, you work it a little bit, it won't hurt it. Okay, so again, I'm going to be able to do 1, 2, 3, we're out of here. And the same thing, I'm going to then be able to pick up this dough. The extra from around, squeeze it together again, put these aside. Flatten it out, make sure it's together. Roll this out again, this little piece out. We don't want to waste anything. You cannot have a magical kitchen if you're a kitchen of waste. Use everything you have, if you can. Oops. There we go. And I'm able to get 1 more. With just a little tiny bit left over. That's it. That's it. Okay, so I got 4 more. I'm able to get 4 more pasties. I almost forgot. I wanted to. I was doing the last of these, and I went, oh wait, I have to show before I forget how I'm going to glaze these. Again, this is optional, but I just have 1 egg that I'm mixing up. Most people use like an egg yolk, not the egg white. I'm not most people. I don't separate an egg unless I have to. I don't want to throw the white away. And I don't see any problem with using the white. And to this, I'm just going to add you add a little water or a little milk. I'm just going to add just a drop of milk. And I'm making like a little glaze. The white makes it a little bit stringy, but it's fine. Let me get a brush. Okay, and you're just going to take your glaze. Where's my fork? And just brush it on lightly. It's just going to kind of brown it. It's going to give it like a pretty like a little shiny coat. Now at this point, if you want, I'm going to do it with my hand. It's a little sloppier, but I can get a better coat. If I don't have my hands and stuff, I don't feel like I'm doing it if I don't get my hands in it. Let me do this a little bit more. I want to make sure I don't have any strings of egg hanging down, but I want to get a nice coat. Okay. Now at this point, if you wanted to sprinkle a little bit of sugar on the top, you could. Keep it in mind though, if you put sugar on at this point, that your sugar might burn. So I don't think I would do that. I think you're going to find these are plenty good. They're plenty sweet. If you don't find them sweet enough, add a little more sweetening to your filling. A little more sugar in your filling. They should be made to your taste, not to mine. Okay. I think I got 11 instead of 12 out of this because I have a different size. The recipe that I used, I have a different size cutter, that I used. I probably got, some of these are not as full as I would personally like. But again, you don't want to fill them too full that they burst, but you want them to look nice and plump. Like these are beautiful, nice and plump. There's still going to be some space in there, but it's still nice and plump. So, you have something when you bite into, you're not biting into air. Okay. So this one's likely to be a disappointment, but not because we didn't use the mold, but because I didn't get much filling in it. Okay, that's really it. I'm coming back now, show you what they look like. They're going to go in a 400 degree oven. That's 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 to 20 minutes. I think we're going to just watch them. We don't want them to burn, but we want them to be nice and, you'll know when they're done. They'll be nice and brown. I'll be right back. Show you what they're done, what they look like. They're all done. It took about exactly 15 minutes in a 400 degree Fahrenheit oven, and they came out beautifully, I think. They're nice and golden, and little shine to the crust. I have them here where you can see the lightning. You can see the lightning. I don't know if you can or not. The camera, I can't really see what you can see, but I think the lightning came out really cute. I think it came out really cute on the pastries. I have these dishes. I think I shared these dishes with you yesterday. The ones that look like the Ouija board that I got. And so I'm just gonna put them out here. I love these little dishes. I get them, I use them all the time. So what you do, I just wanted to put them on this rack to cool them, make sure they're completely cool, and then they can go on whatever kind of a serving dish you want. The uglier ones we keep for cook's treat. You know how that works. The ones that are not quite so pretty, cook's treat. But even this one came out really beautifully. This is the one we made without the form. And it's gorgeous. It came out fine. It had plenty of filling in it. So, and you always put the prettier ones on the top. You know how that works. So there we have it. Put my rack aside. There we have it. They're lovely. They're lovely. And they're all ready to go on an altar for ritual, or a ancestor altar for a to share with the ancestors, or to just for a party, for a snack, for a party, or for trick or treat. While you're feeding trick or treaters, if you're able to do that. Okay, this was fun to do. I hope you liked it. It was just a little fun cooking thing I thought I would do. Oh, I forgot. I need to taste. Quality control, right? So I'm gonna see what they taste like. It's perfect. The filling is not custardy like it would be the way I make them, like the pumpkin pie filling. But it tastes lovely. It has a lovely pumpkin flavor, just the right amount of sweetness, and perfect amount of cinnamon. Very tender. Very tender. It was a success. Will I do it again? I just may. I just may do it again. There was certainly a lot less work than making the dough by hand and making the custard filling. A lot less work. So I enjoyed them very much. So there you go. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. I will send you blessings.